Welcome to TechnoTips Learning, and in this video we will talk about groups and group management in Microsoft Entra ID. This would be a step-by-step information on the groups. We will discuss groups by source, we will discuss group by assignment, and we will discuss groups by their features. So what kind of groups the Entra ID supports, what we can do with the groups, and from where we can manage the groups. Alright, so let us first talk about groups by origin. So groups by origin is where the groups are created and how they are managed. So the first groups are cloud groups. These are the groups created on the Microsoft Entra ID cloud environment. And the second are AD synced groups. So these are the groups which are created on your on-premise Active Directory or on-premise directory, and they are synced to the Entra ID. So the first thing is these are synced to the Entra ID from your on-premise Active Directory and cannot be managed from Entra ID. So you cannot manage these groups from Entra ID. What you can perform on these groups? So this is based upon what I have tested and experienced so far. So you can only assign licenses to your AD synced groups. You might see multiple articles or multiple blog posts when you are trying to provide the role-based access controls on these AD synced groups. It is not possible because when we do the Entra ID groups, when we create Entra ID groups, we define whether an role-based access control or Azure AD roles can be assigned to these groups or not. But that is not possible on your Active Directory environment. So these groups you cannot assign role-based access controls. Now, if we talk about nesting of these groups, so if you want to, so some articles I read about, if you nest these groups into an Entra ID group, you can assign role-based access control. That is a total no, because it will give you an error message that you cannot assign, you cannot nest the groups which have permission for role-based assignments. So we will see all these things in practicals. Alright, this is my on-premise environment where I have created a group which is named as On-Prem Synced Test Group. And in my last videos, we configured the Entra ID Connect, how my identities are syncing with my Entra ID. So let us quickly go into my Entra ID Connect. So I have tested it out. So if I go to groups, and go to all groups, so you see this on-premise sync test is a group which is synced from my Active Directory, and the source, it says Windows Server 80, which means this group is created on Windows Server Active Directory and syncing to the Microsoft Entra ID. Now we go ahead and click on this to see the properties. Now if we go to properties, you can see you cannot edit anything from here because it says some groups can't be managed in Azure portal. And how to manage these groups? So you can directly go to your Active Directory and manage. That means you cannot add members, you cannot add owners from here. So licenses, you can assign licenses from but you have to do it through Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Click here and go to M365 Admin Center, or you can simply go to the same place as admin.microsoft.com. So that I have shown you in many videos. So this is the license that we need to assign, that we want to assign to Microsoft 365 E3 to a group. So let us go here and you see groups here. So click on groups and you click on assign licenses, enter a group name. If you click on it, it will show you all the groups, whether it is an intra group or it is an on-premise syncing group, it will show you all the groups. So if you click on it, you do click on assign. I hope you know the need of a group. Why do you need a group? So every time you do not need to go and assign a license to an individual user, rather you will put all the users in a particular group and you can perform a similar action on all the members of those groups. So you do not have to go user by user. You can use a group to manage these users and the features. All right, so now the license is assigned to our on-prem synced test on-premises group. So any user you add to this group will get this license. So this is how licenses are managed through groups. So you do not have to go ahead and assign the licenses person by person. At the time of creation of a user ID, dependent on the role, you can assign the license, what kind of license you need to provide to that user. Moreover, there are lot of topics that are in discussion, that are in development by Microsoft. How do you assign Azure role-based access to on-premise groups, which is not possible for now. You might see multiple articles, multiple blog posts that you can do, you can nest, but that won't work. I will cover it in detail in my next video. That is the reason I ask you to subscribe so that whenever I publish a video on some topics which are in discussion, I will come up with those kind of videos and it will reach out directly to you. So that is all about on-premise synced groups. Now we will progress to Microsoft 365 groups or Entra ID groups, which are cloud groups, and we will look into all the features of these groups as well. So let us talk about the cloud groups. So these are the groups which are created and managed from the cloud itself. Now, groups by purpose. So we will talk about groups by purpose. What is the use of the groups? So first is a security group in Entra ID. This, see, we have discussed it while discussing the Active Directory. So Active Directory has a scope of groups: global, universal, local, security, and distribution. So that is in detail on my channel as well. However, the global, universal, or local groups which were in Active Directory, now that concept is gone from the Entra ID or Azure Active Directory. Now we simply discuss three groups, which are security groups, and second one is mail enabled security groups, and third one is Office 365 groups. Let us first discuss the security groups. So what are security groups? So security groups, as the name suggests itself, it is used to grant access to resources. These groups are used to grant access to resources, manage permissions and role, apply licenses, contain, and they can contain what they can contain: various type of objects, users, devices, service principal like application, and other security groups as well. So this is the role of a security group. Mail enabled security group is a security group itself, but has an email capability. It contains, it is created as email distribution as well, same as the Active Directory distribution groups. So primary purpose is access control. This is what it inherits from here. But security groups, simply talking about security groups, are not mail enabled security groups. So you need to define mail enabled security groups. Email distribution is a feature that is added to this group. These groups combine the access control capability of a regular security group with the ability to receive emails. Then we have Office 365 groups. Primary purpose is collaboration. These are designed to facilitate teamwork and provide a shared workspace for a group of people. So if you talk about Teams, a SharePoint group, those all are Office 365 groups. So if we look at the basic structure, this is the basic structure of all the Entra ID groups. So we will look into detail on our Entra ID portal and look into the creation of this group, management of these groups, and look into the use of these groups. So let us start. All right, so to manage groups, we need to go to portal.azure.com or entra.microsoft.com. So both the places we can go to manage the groups. So there is no difference. It is just the difference of look and feel and the dashboard. So this is the dashboard of the Microsoft Entra Admin Center. So you go to users. So we talked about user groups and you go to overview. So this is the same screen you get when you go to Microsoft Entra ID here and click on groups. Overview. It is the same screen. So no difference. So in overview, it tells you how many groups you have, how many dynamic groups are there, how many Microsoft 365 groups are there, how many cloud groups are there, and so the complete information is available. So you go to all groups, it will show you all the groups here. So from here you can click a new group. Now group type is security or Microsoft 365. So first of all, let us go ahead and create a security group. Group name. So the best practice is to follow a naming convention like SEC by Qs, SD, or maybe service desk. This description you need to add. It is a best practice to add a description. This group is used to manage all service desk users. Microsoft Entra role can be assigned to this group. Now, this is the part of planning, whether you want to assign a Microsoft Entra role to the groups or no. Okay, first of all, we will go with so we will mark this group as 01 and Microsoft Entra role can be assigned to this group is no. Members membership type is assigned, and in a security group you can use a dynamic user if you simply select assigned. So you can add a device or a user to this group. If you select dynamic user, then we need to feed the query how it will add users only based on their attributes. If we select dynamic device, then the devices have their attributes. So we have to create a query to create the dynamic groups. First of all, we will look into assigned groups and then we will move on to creating a dynamic group. So owners, you need to select an owner. So from your environment, you can select anyone as the owner. Members, while creating these groups, you can go to users, group, devices, enterprise application. So you can add all these users, group, devices, enterprise applications to this group. Now, these are the devices that we can add to the group. These are the users. So as this is an assigned group, you can use a mix of everything to be assigned. Okay, so one I have select it from every, and we'll try to add and we'll try to create. So it successfully created the group, and we go ahead and refresh it, and we will be able to see the group SAC BYQ Service Desk 01. It is a security group and it is assigned group, and the source is cloud. Click on it, you see the members. It is containing all kind of service principles. Now the second group that we talked about is Office 365 group. So we will talk about mail enabled groups as well, but wait for that. And groups, all groups, again, you go to overview, you get an option, you go to all groups, you get an option, right? So we will go to new group, and this time we will create Microsoft 365 group. Name of the group is uh, M365. We will use this naming convention, M365, same service desk 01, and you can see it gets an email address because it is mail in the sorry, Microsoft 365 groups. Group description is, we'll put like Microsoft 365 group for service desk. Microsoft Entra role can be assigned to this group. For now we will select no. Membership type is assigned and dynamic user. So if you see membership type, it is assigned and it only includes users, not dynamic devices. So assigned, we will keep for now, and we'll go to no. We will go to owners. Currently no owner selected. We will select an owner. No member selected. Now here you figure out that it is all, and then it is users. There is no scope to add device or any other service principal here. So that is a difference between your security group and Microsoft 365 group. So you can select only users to it, and you select and click on create. So now we see the difference between a security group and Microsoft 365 group. So now you see this group is here, Microsoft 365 Service Desk 01, assigned, and it has an email address, and it is a cloud group. Now we will talk about mail enabled security groups. So we talked about security groups, Office 365 groups, and we will talk about mail enabled security groups. So if I take you here from this Azure portal, you will not be able to create a mail enabled security group because there is no option, as we showed you. From here also it is the same look and feel, and you will not be able to create mail enabled security groups. So where do we create mail enabled security groups? So you go to admin.microsoft.com. So it is Microsoft Admin Center. You go to Teams and Groups, and you click on Active Teams and Groups, and here you see Security Groups option. Note it very closely. Note it step by step. Do not skip this video. This is going to be a question where you can crack an interview. So if you go to Azure and if you go to new group, here you will only get an option for security and Microsoft 365 groups. Now if you have to create a mail enabled security group, you have to go to admin.microsoft.com. So which is Microsoft 365 Admin Center. All these portals are different. It is Microsoft Azure portal. This is Microsoft Entra Admin Center portal, and this is Microsoft 365 Admin Center portal. So if you create a security group, here you get an option like from this portal, Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you can create all types of groups. So here you get an option to add a security group, but the process is bit, I would say, longer here, not as simple as because it needs to change the screen. So what I feel is I can create groups better in the Azure portal if they are not mail enabled groups. So in Microsoft 365 Admin Center, we'll go and add a mail enabled security group. Name of the group is M365 mail enabled. So mail enabled security group for example on my YouTube channel. So this is all based on your planning. You click next, assign owners. We have added an owner. We click next, members, mail enabled group, members will, it can be a group, another mail enabled group, or it can, and it would be the users. Okay. So we have added kind of 3 users, for example, next setting. Now, here you need to define the email address for these groups. So, M365 mail enabled group. And you can change your accepted domains, newsletters, home PVT, or whatever the poem story. So we can choose the domains from here. Now here you get an option. If it is a mail enabled group, allow people outside of my organization to send email to this email enabled security group. So you always check it, because then how will you receive emails from outside your organization? If you do not check this box, internally it will work, but people outside your organization will not be able to send email to this mail enabled security group. So you need to select allow, click next, and you review, finish, and you create a group. So now this group is created. All right, and we close it. So we have created a mail enabled security group. So we have talked about, in this video, we have talked about groups based on their source. What are the cloud groups? What are on-premise Active Directory synced groups? Then we talked about the assignment, or the usage of the groups, um, security group, mail enabled security group, or Office 365 groups we have talked about. Now, if I talk more on Office 365 groups, these groups are used for collaboration. So if you see the example, if I take you to the example of these groups, if I take you to the example of these groups, and so you see Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 groups, it is under one category. So whenever you create a Teams is nothing but a sort of, not a sort of, but Teams is nothing but it is created on your Microsoft 365 group. So this is a Microsoft 365 group which you can use for Teams collaboration. And would you like to add Microsoft Teams to this group? Yeah, you can click on add Teams, and click on add teams again. So it is adding the Teams channel or a Microsoft Teams team on this group. Inside it, you can create owners, channels. So if you want to create a site, a SharePoint site, then you need to use this M365 groups on how you can create sites. So you see it created a site as well. So if you click on it, it will take you to the SharePoint site. So that is the purpose of Microsoft 365 groups. We will discuss it more because now I think this video is going long and boring. What we will cover in the next video is managing the dynamic groups. Currently, all these groups we talked about are assigned, where you manually go ahead and assign users, devices to the groups. However, the other set of groups are dynamic groups, where you need to put a query and it will automatically add your users and devices to the group. So, subscribe my channel. When I publish next video, you will be able to get more details on groups, dynamic groups. Then we will talk about role-based access control, and we will move so on with the complete identity and access management, license management. So many things are there. That is the reason I ask you to subscribe and must press the bell icon so that my videos reach out to you as soon as I publish it. For today, thank you and have a nice day.